You found yourself on another episode of Locked On Bulls. In today's episode, we're going to continue our player evaluations today with Ayo Dosunmu. We're also going to talk about Coach Mike Budenholzer being fired and what that could mean for any teams in the Eastern Conference going forward. And then we're going to talk about 12 years since Derrick Rose won the MVP. We're going to talk about all that and more on today's Locked On Bulls. Let's play the intro.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily podcast on the Chicago Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. That's Pat the Designer, host and creator of the Windy City Breeze and host of the Chicago Bears podcast over at ESPN 1000. I'm Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls and Chicago Bears Central. Let's get into it. Ayo Dosunmu, bro. We gotta rate his season. Now this is, man. You called it sophomore slump. Man. I wish I had. Yeah, listen, sometimes you just got to shut up, Pat. That's just what it is. You just got to shut up sometimes, bro. Now, numbers-wise, it wasn't really that far off from Ayo Dosunmu. The numbers are almost the same. But if you've actually watched the games, you would see that Ayo Dosunmu couldn't hit a wide-open layup if my 9-year-old son was guarding him this season. The defensive numbers took a step back as well. Just overall, Ayo was not nearly as impactful, even in the things that he did last season, which brings the most concern in doing something like this, because you not only just want to see progression, but you can even deal with kind of a stagnating season. Because he came in, played a big role for the Chicago Bulls, much larger last season than what was expected, but he came into this offseason being the de facto starting point guard. And I will say this, he earned the starting point guard role in the preseason because he was the best point guard play in the preseason. And that's really what Billy Donovan used to determine the starting point guard, but he also earned losing that starting position with the way that he played over the course of the season. Ultimately, Pat, how you viewing how you viewing Ayo's season this season?
I mean, listen, C minus. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we spent the problem for me is the fact that there were more nights than not where he just didn't make an impact. Mm-hmm. There weren't a ton of nights where he was impacting crazy negatively offensively, I guess, right? Like, just not adding anything to it. The one thing though that I think that you have to really focus in on is the fact that the defender that he once was completely took a step back. Now, granted, change in role, all of a sudden he's a starting point guard full time. They're putting a lot more on his plate. They're trying to see what he can handle. But realistically, right, Ayo didn't play well this season. Even Ayo would tell you that he didn't play well this season. Yeah. Never was able to get the shot together. Never was able to get consistent production inside the paint. Wasn't a great facilitator for the team. Wasn't a great leader or for the offense, somebody that can run the ball and or run the system, I should say. And that's why he lost his job to Pat Bev. That's why we went looking for Pat Bev. If Ayo Dosunmu could have done anything this season that was impactful for the Chicago Bulls, we wouldn't have gone out and signed Pat Bev. This season might have gone a little bit different, right? I don't know if it changes completely, but I think that you're looking at a season where we're not talking about going out and getting a 36-year-old veteran point guard to try and push us to the next level. Ayo to me just had a poor season. And listen, when I said this in the beginning of the season or in the preseason last year, I was very Seattle about to make a comeback in the NHL playoffs. Crazy. I was very big on I don't want this to happen, but this happens to a lot of players. Sophomore slump is not something new. And it's really just the fact that, right, you're coming in with maybe not the same mindset that you had your rookie year, but you come in with that mindset of, all right, listen, I know what to expect now. I know how they're going to attack me. I know what this is going to be. And then they come up with something completely different. I think teams found a different way to attack Ayo. People now have a year's worth of tape to study you offensively and defensively. Now, right, the guys that you were locking down last year defensively, they know how to attack you. They know what to expect. They know, okay, this guy was a top-tier defender. We can get past him. The real question is, will Ayo be able to adjust going into next season if he's still a Chicago Bull? And I don't know if he will be or not. But even so, right, if he's still in the league, when he's still in the league, will he be able to adjust his mindset to, okay, I see how they were playing me here. Now this is how I bounce back. That's not easy for a young player to do during the season, especially in the second season. Hopefully this offseason he'll get a lot more work in to be able to adjust back and become the player that he once was.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Ayo, he did add considerable. I can't remember the number now off the top of my head. I know he came in after adding a lot of muscle to his body, and not to say that that's an excuse for anything, but when you're still trying to adapt, I mean, the NBA and the key to longevity to NBA careers is always adding something to your game, always adapting to what's being done to you as well as what other teams are doing. So, Ayo's a smart player. I do think that, we have one season of promise and we have another season of some struggles. And I think like third, fourth season is really going to be telling. The thing that I always come back to with Ayo is that this is why in a player that you believe there's some promise in, you don't give them a 2-year deal coming in and being a second round pick. Like, I understand some second round picks you give a 2-year deal to, but this is why the Bulls are, probably kicking themselves for not giving him the 3-year deal, because at that point then you had 2 seasons. You have another season of evaluation before you do have to lock them into long-term money. Now they have to use the data that they have and try to make a determination there, and you can make the wrong one. Just period. You could literally make a decision to either keep him or let him go, and that decision could very well turn out wrong, because the one thing that's hard to factor in is progression. And so, Ayo's a gym rat. He is a heady player as well. So I do think he is we can't expect him to come in and really give that best effort to not having another slump, but you just never know, man. I think in grading Ayo's season, I have to be fair. Bro, I heard you give it a C-, and I like that, but it's a D to me, man. Not only just because of his play on the court, but because of the expectations. Now, expectations aren't necessarily on the player at all, but I mean, listen, you came in as the starting point guard. There is a certain level of expectation, whether you are a second round pick or anything else. When you come in as the starter, there's starter expectations around you, and you failed to give us that. So
yeah, no, I listen. I agree with you on that. I think here's the thing though, that I guess, right, like if you're going to have a bad season, now's the perfect time from a Bulls standpoint for you to have that season, right? Because he can't come out here demanding big money.
Yeah.
He can't sit here beat his chest about what he did his rookie year. You could get Ayo for a little bit of a discount, maybe keep him here in Chicago for 3-4 years, right? And get him on a discounted deal to where maybe there's a player option on year 4 to where, listen, if you develop, if you do these things, if you meet these metrics, we can come back to the table. We could change things up, even if it's in year 3, right? And he can opt in to keep going or opt out. Like, I think those are things where, like, all right, listen, we got this young guy. We'll give you 2 more years of guaranteed bread on the team at this price. If you exceed the expectations, we can do this. If you meet expectations, we'll keep you at the same. If you're below expectations, you can do this, right? And you can opt in and get your bread and keep trying to work on your game. But I think that the Bulls have an opportunity here to hold on to Ayo, which is something that we didn't think coming into the season was going to be easy, because we were sitting here with the mindset of Ayo's going to come in with the same type of play. He's going to come in more aggressively defensively, going to have a better offensive game. And now all of a sudden we're sitting here talking about having to pay a starting point guard while Lonzo Ball is sitting on the sidelines. That's not the case here.
Yeah, I think, it could work out, because if Ayo still does hit on that potential, like, the Bulls have an opportunity to sign him for much less than what they would have if he did have a great second year. I think that the way that I'm starting to, my thinking is starting to go is I think they're going to try to align everything around the time Lonzo Ball's contract's supposed to come out. So a 2, maybe even a 2+1 for Ayo wouldn't surprise me at all this offseason.
Yeah, I something like that. Exactly right. A 2+1. I think that would be perfect for kind of where he's at. I mean, like, listen, I don't think that I don't like that Marco got the big 3-year deal, right? Like, because to me, this is the guy that you want to see, okay, what are you going to be able to do in year 3?
Yeah.
What are you going to be able to do to add to your game in year 3? How are you going to be? Because that's what it's all about, right? Like during the season, again, you're not working on a ton. You're just trying to get ready for the next game. But the thing is, how are you reacting to what the NBA has done to you? Especially him being that young and him trying to find himself. He probably put all the pressure on himself to try and get himself back into it immediately. Yeah. He's the lead point guard. All of these things are working against him at once. He's not making the impact that he thought he once would. Right, like it goes from being something you can do physically to something you're doing mentally. Now, I think with an offseason, him being able to watch the tape on what people did to him, you'll be able to see him adjust back a little bit, hopefully have that bounce back year. I think he will have a bounce back year, but now you got to figure out about paying him.
Yeah, you got to figure out about paying him now. So, hey, that's a conversation I'm glad that we don't have to be a part in. The newly extended AK gets to have that conversation to make that determination when it comes to Ayo Dosunmu. But all right, man, next up we're going to be talking about Coach Mike Budenholzer getting fired. But before we do that, got to talk to you guys about eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know that the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guarantee Fit only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items and exclusions do apply.
I like how you tried to do the quick joke, but you wasn't able to get it out.
Yeah, I was laughing because I mentally said, I'm about to try to do the quick joint, and then I was like, yeah, that's fine. Well, try to get him next time. Well, one person who will not try to get him next time is head coach Mike Budenholzer from Milwaukee, because he got canned today. Now, this is a guy who has won a title. This is Nick Nurse also got fired this offseason after he was a championship-winning coach as well, and apparently the Bucks have Nick Nurse as the top of their list to replace Coach Bud. But ultimately, we see Coach Bud a lot. Being Chicago Bulls fans and monitoring this team, we see them 4 times a year. Last year, we also saw them in the playoffs. How you feeling about Coach Mike Budenholzer and what Milwaukee has going on there?
Listen, Bud's not a good coach. Like he's actually not a good coach. Like I haven't seen Bud adjust since Atlanta. He just had a generational talent, right? Like I actually think Nick Nurse is a decent X's and O's coach. I think he's an above average X's and O's coach, right? Mm-hmm. I think he's kind of very much like Billy Donovan, where he takes too long to adjust. But I actually think Bud's actually to me a bad coach. Like I don't like what is once again, what does Bud do well? Like, is he a good offensive coach?
I mean, he's not terrible, but no, I wouldn't say he's good either.
Is he a good defensive coach?
He's okay. I'll say this. The thing that Bud does do well, because I actually have an answer to this, honestly, the thing I think he does do well is he does manage the depth correctly on that team. I do like how he used the depth.
I like his rotations. Yeah. I don't like what he has them out there doing.
That's fair.
And I don't think that there's much that kind of really goes, right? Like, we haven't seen a change. Like, listen, the same way to beat the Milwaukee Bucks last year was the same way to beat the Milwaukee Bucks this year. It was the same way to beat the Milwaukee Bucks 3 years ago. It was the same way to beat the Milwaukee Bucks 4 years ago.
Yeah, Mike, as far as adjustments, right? And we have our issue with adjustments here. Mike Budenholzer's adjustment is, let me change the lineup. That's what he feels like is an adjustment. It doesn't do anything with the scheme. It's like, let me just change the personnel that's out there.
Yeah. So, and that's what I'm saying, right? Like, right? Like, the Bucks are going to collapse the paint. They're going to try and make sure that you get nothing inside. They're going to make your life hell inside. And the only way that you're going to beat them is by knocking down the threes.
Yeah. Agreed.
Milwaukee or Miami came out and knocked down threes. You're not in the playoffs no more. And the one game that Milwaukee came back and dominated y'all, they didn't knock down threes. So I just feel like, right, like there is a like you knew what it was. You knew how to beat this team going into it. It's just about executing it. And that's very hard to do when you got Giannis guarding you and you got Drew Holiday on the perimeter. But then, right, you got Jimmy Butler just saying, hey, it is what it is. I'm going to do everything I can. 45 on your top. Take this with you. Yeah, I mean, he scored 95 points on, it was a 95 or 85 on Drew Holiday in 2 games. That's insane, wild, bro. And Drew Holiday might get traded. They might have traded Drew Holiday out of that. By the way, send him here. I'll take Drew Holiday in a heartbeat. All day, all night. But I to me, Bud didn't change anything that the Bucks could have done to be better. He didn't make the Bucks better. I'm not surprised that he's fired. As a Bulls fan, and somebody who covers the Bulls, I am upset because I did like the fact that we probably could beat them because I knew Bud wasn't going to change anything. And I do think it's the reason that we beat them 3 times. Or did we beat them twice? Was it 2-2?
I think it was
it 2-2? Yeah, well, we weren't supposed to beat them. We weren't supposed to beat them, but then we did. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah. So ultimately, man, I mean, listen, I understand why he's fired. Like you said, they get to move on. Honestly, surprised they didn't try to pull the trigger earlier so that they could have gotten Ime Udoka in there. But, it kind of is what it is. And we lost Pat.
I'm still here. My battery died.
Oh, well, there you go.
Be like that.
As Pat is working on his battery, that's wild, bro. That's funny. I'll wait on you. We'll just edit it in.
Yeah, we'll edit this part out. That's why I be using the dummy batteries. But in fairness to the camera, had you showed up on time.
I mean, hey, that's very fair. That is fair.
All right, let's get this mud done for this John Dye.
I don't even know where we left off. What was
you was talking about Bud. You understanding why Bud was fired?
Okay. Yeah, I definitely understand why Bud was fired, and I think you have to make a move there. That's very understandable, and ultimately when it comes down to it, Bud inherited a team, as you said, with a generational talent, and that just kind of is what it is. You got to move on from there. I don't know if he is going to get another job. I wonder do you think at all that the Milwaukee Bucks are kind of kicking themselves? They didn't make the decision quicker and got Ime Udoka, or you think that they always had Nick Nurse maybe penciled in as their guy?
I think they probably always had Nick Nurse penciled in as their guy. Y'all know how Milwaukee is, right? Like, they don't want to have no problems. And plus, it's a very close-knit city. Maybe you don't want Ime just rolling around that mud. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could just see Giannis at the supermarket. You know what I'm saying? Like, you might not just want to see Ime at the club. Like, Ime, what you doing? I got a game tomorrow. Put that down.
Put her down.
Exactly. But I don't know, man. Like, as far as the coaching search goes with Milwaukee, I think that they're it's not that hard. You know what I mean? Like, you got to just find somebody competent. You got Giannis, right? Like, you have to find. Frank Vogel has an NBA championship.
That's wild.
What I will say is this, though, right before we get up out of this segment, do you like and or dislike where the NBA is going, where you're talking about 3 championship head coaches, Frank Vogel, Nick Nurse, now Mike Budenholzer, being fired within 2 to 3 years of them winning a championship? I know it's a what have you done for me lately league, but the disrespect is kind of crazy. Damian Lillard was tweeting about this.
Yeah, I mean, it is wild that you can win a title, but I think when you look at all those coaches, like Nick Nurse took advantage of having Kawhi in a perfect situation, kind of just what was going on there. That team, the team they faced, also just everybody's knees just all went out at the same time when they faced the Warriors. Frank Vogel, had a bubble title, and then you're looking at Budenholzer, who had a generational talent and then couldn't do nothing else after that. So, I mean, yeah, there's something to be said, but let's not act like these three coaches that did win a title like they had like dynasties. They didn't. They almost.
I feel like if Nick Nurse keeps, I mean, listen, you got to have a superstar. I feel like if Nick Nurse keeps Kawhi, he can keep winning.
I do. I think when you look at how good they still were after Kawhi left, right? They weren't terrible.
Yeah.
If they would have been able to at least run it back with 2 more seasons with Kawhi, not to say they would have won more titles, but I think they would have gone on deep playoff runs for sure. So,
what I will say is Masai Ujiri was not thrilled with how Nick Nurse left. Said when he got out of there, he was like, "Good luck with these guys."
I mean, he's not wrong.
He's not wrong. I mean, Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, Scotty Barnes. Good luck.
OG Anunoby.
Anunoby.
Yeah. Now, with that said, though, I know Bulls fans, and this is a Bulls show, so let's bring it back to Bulls before we get out of this segment. We've got a couple minutes left.
No, we don't want Bud. Oh, my bad. I thought that's where we were going.
No. Bro, you just gave me a heart attack. You talked about it on yesterday's show, but like going from a okay coach to an actual bad coach is what the Bulls do. Don't do it.
That'd be terrible.
But there are going to be Bulls fans that ask, all right, we have teams that have fired coaches that have won titles. We have struggled in a full season and half of one season with Billy Donovan. What do you think? Like, does this speak to anything on what that timeline could be for Billy Donovan? Like, I know we're a completely different type of organization. Like Jerry Ryan. So if you in with Jerry, you can stay for life. But what do you feeling there?
Hey man, it's like you said, when you found out that Billy was texting Jerry at like 3 a.m. with his feet kicked up in the bed. You know what I mean? Like, that's all you needed to know.
That's job security, bro.
That's all you needed to know right there, bro.
Yeah.
Nah, I don't think he's going anywhere. And here's the thing. I think the difference is, right, you have a finite timeline. Giannis is already talking about he's not going to be one of those guys that plays till he's 38 years old. If he retired right now, he could have a Hall of Fame career. So you're trying to win as much as you can with Giannis. We don't have a Giannis. I love Zach. He ain't Giannis. He's not even close to Giannis.
He may be Giannis's left arm.
He's closer to Thanasis than he is to Giannis.
That's scarily accurate, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like there might be 30 people. There might be. Well, that's actually not true. Thanasis is bottom of the league. He shouldn't have a job. But he's closer to Giannis than he is to Thanasis. That was disrespectful. But I think here's the thing, right? Like, to me,
Brown gonna get you in the comments.
Hey, who cares? Talk about that defensive rating. No, but I think that if you have a guy like that, you have to win to keep them happy.
Yeah.
I don't think we have a guy like that. If we had a guy like that, different situation. So right now, right, like if Zach's winning 48 games a year and they're going out and competing every year trying to fight to get to the next level, Billy's going to be here.
All right, well, there you go, man. Let's get into the next topic for today before we leave out today. And, it's always good when you get to talk about Derrick Rose, especially old times. We were 12 years removed from Derrick Rose winning an MVP. And there is nothing that you could not have told me on the day that Derrick Rose won that MVP that we would not win a title in Derrick Rose's time here in Chicago. Everything came crashing down over the course of the next season after that. I would say this. Derrick Rose, and I think people forget because he was kind of in and out with injury that following season, but Derrick Rose was a better basketball player the year after he won the MVP.
Yes. He was a guy that saw the court better.
Yeah.
He wasn't just attacking.
Yeah. I honestly think that was the season. And it's funny to say that you could say like an MVP year, but like I think the game slowed down for Derrick the year after he won MVP, because when you just look at just how he was moving out there, how he was picking his spots better, like, and just being even more of an assassin than what he already was. And that's why it's always bittersweet to talk about this, because I always go to thinking then, like, what if Derrick Rose actually got to have a prime? We're talking about a player that never got to have a prime, but won an MVP award. Man, the woulda, coulda, shouldas would drive you crazy when it comes to that, man.
It sucks, but I mean, listen, we got to see it. We got to enjoy it. I enjoyed Derrick for what he was in the city. One day we'll be celebrating him going into the Hall of Fame. That's going to happen. Just accept it. T-Mac's in. And, that's what it's going to be. That's what the legacy is going to be. I will say, maybe one day he comes home. Maybe he comes home and plays a season for us. Maybe that's this season. Maybe it's not. Who knows? But we actually have a need for point guard. He's probably going to come a lot cheaper than he once did. But I think that the Derrick Rose era will always be what it was when he was 24, 23,
yeah, something like that.
And it won't be whatever it once becomes, right? Like the hard part about seeing Derrick, the hard part, but the encouraging part about seeing Derrick go to the MVP, get to have 2 ACL surgeries, have issues with the MCL, have countless injuries throughout his career, but see him fight back every single time. You ain't seen Derrick Rose quit. You've never seen Derrick Rose quit. And I give Derrick Rose a lot of credit for that.
I mean, we did see him take a brief break there, but I think he needed that for mentally for more than anything. But when he came back, that Cleveland year was rough on him, both physically and I think mentally. And then he came in that first Minnesota year as well. But
and that was at a time where Brown was taking 2-week vacations every season. I give him a little credit on that. Yeah, I mean, I ain't a bit.
I mean, that's what I didn't say that's like crap on Derrick, because like it is what it is. Like it's when you look at everything Derrick Rose had been into, like over the course of like 3 seasons all in a row at that point in time, like take that time. We've seen it, like players do it, within season, but sometimes you got to get that mental right. But I think once Derrick Rose got his mental back together, we saw a player that still gave everything. Like what he had that was it a 40-point game off the bench for Minnesota once that one season he was
50-point game.
50, crazy.
He had a 50-point game in Minnesota.
So like
when he came back, he was like, I worked myself, bro.
Yeah.
And we was all just like,
yeah, bro. Like that was emotional, man.
Bring him home.
Yeah. And you know, every offseason there's the Derrick, how we bring Derrick Rose back plan, and I understand it to a degree, but like you said, this would be the season that it makes the most sense. If it does happen, if it's going to happen at all in a way that it's like, hey, Derrick's going to come back and actually play a role, this is the offseason that it could happen. I will say that. I
thought last season made a lot of sense all until Thibs gave him that money.
Well,
was that last season or was that the year before?
That was the year before. Because honestly, I think that they were trying, because if you remember, the Bulls, there had been that conversation. And then once the deal was announced in New York, an hour later, we announced Alex Caruso for basically the same deal.
Hey, that man got $80 million. We was all like, I love you, Derrick, but I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, if he is cut, because he's partially guaranteed this offseason, let's talk about that for a second before we go. We've talked about the point guard position. Let's say that Kobe does come back, right? Because they bring Derrick not as the starter, but as the point guard off the bench. They can do a lot of the things Kobe, because everything went through Kobe on the bench by the end of the season.
Yep.
How impactful do you think Derrick Rose could be when you look at a bench that then probably will include P. Will? We don't know, but P. Will still have some other questions. Maybe Andre Drummond will still be there on the bench. Dalen Terry will be here regardless, and hopefully he's ready to play a bigger role. If Derrick Rose does sign with the Chicago Bulls this offseason, do you think it is a vanity signing, or do you think he actually comes in and has a role on this team where he's getting a set amount of minutes night in and night out?
I think he'd have a role on this team. I don't think it'd be major. I think it'd be like, 15 minutes a game, something where he's able to come in but here's the thing, right? I think what we've seen in New York is Derrick's ready to be the vocal leader. He's ready to be the guy to tell you, hey, this is what you need to be doing in this situation. This is where we don't have that. The one thing that I don't know if y'all saw Damian Lillard. I forget who's maybe he was on Pivot, one of those podcasts. But he talked about how, like, there's no vets on any teams anymore. He's like, when I came into the league, I had like dudes on my team that was 40 years old. It's like, but they were there for a reason. They were there to teach you the game. They were there, they get in, they do their little thing, and then really, realistically, they're there to calm you down, make you better. Right? Like, we're sitting here with all these young people on the team, and we got some vets now. We got Vooch, we got DeMar, we got Zach, who's a vet in his own right. You know what I mean? Like, he's been in the league. He's almost been in the league 10 years now, I think. But I don't think we had that guy that was going to be the vocal, hey, man, this is what we need to do in this situation. This is how we need to handle this. And I think that Derrick Rose finally became that when he went to New York. We see the impact that he's had with the point guards there, with Brunson, with Quickly, right? Not to say that those guys were bad, but I feel like they're more poised in this situation this season now. And you see Derrick talking to him on the sidelines all the time. So I think that is something that you could benefit from. Do I think that if he came here, he would play? Right over there, they're not playing him at all. But do I think that if he came here, coming here, Derrick would probably play, I don't know, Billy B. Wild.
Probably backup center.
Right. You know what I mean? He'd be play backup center. Billy play him 35 minutes a game. I think he play about 15 to 20 minutes a game, somewhere in there, right? Nothing crazy. Nothing. I just think you don't want Derrick Rose playing more than that.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't want. Honestly, I think anything over 18 minutes per game is probably too much for Derrick Rose, unless he just comes in and flashes some things that we haven't gotten to see because he hasn't played much in New York. But ultimately, like I said, to just kind of bring it all back, the Derrick Rose era for some Bulls fans, I think we got to forget that is their dynasty era. Not to say that we were a dynasty, but like for a lot of younger Bulls fans, that is their height of being a Bulls fan is that era. So. There's always going to be affinity for Derrick. There's always going to be every offseason can Derrick come back. I even said this over on Twitter once. Derrick Rose could retire. For at least the first 3 years after he retires, there's still going to be, hey, could you think Derrick Rose will come back and add something to this team?
We'll talk about it every offseason. I ain't going to lie to you. I still want Rondo. What Rondo got going on? I'll take Rondo.
It's going to be like with
Rondo got dreads now. That's weird.
Rondo has dreads?
He got like the starter joints in his head. Give it 4 years. You're gonna see Rondo draping with the hair down his back. Forehead's still big than the mug though.
Oh, of course, that doesn't go away.
So that means like the dreads is here. Yeah, I mean it's a lot of foot like mud like.
Could you imagine if LeBron added dreads? It would literally.
Can you add dreads to implants?
All right, bro, it's time to go, man. Go ahead.
Hey, follow us on everything at Locked On Bulls. You can follow me on everything at Pat the Designer. I know a doctor in Turkey that can get it done.
You can follow me.
I'm not gonna lie, you never go see me ball, bro. I swear, if it start going bad, oh yeah, I'm going to Turkey. 10 bands, bro. 10 bands. You not bringing your hairline back for 10 bands? You gonna tell me that right now?
I'm not afraid to go bald, so I guess this is something
I'm not afraid to go bald either.
Because me, after it gets past a certain point, I'm shaving it all off, bro, and I'm letting the beard get even bigger.
But I'm just saying, right? Like, hey, never mind. I'm just saying though, right? Like, if you got the band, like if you got spare bands to do it, you're not gonna bring your hair back?
No, I'm cool.
Really?
I really have I'm good on.
It's not even a what's it called? It's not even like a vanity thing. Like I gotta have my hair. Like if I start to lose it and I ain't got the bread to do it, it's gone. Like I'm out of here. But I feel like if I got the bread to do it, like bring that John back. Once Deion Sanders did it, then I got to fade again.
Bro.
Then I got a nice fade with waves.
Bro, that's different, man. But yeah, there's a lot of people doing shit, you did a podcast with Tommy Harris. He got dreads, and I'm just like,
I think Tommy could grow hair the whole time. I don't think he got implants, bro.
I feel
Tommy always had the ball fade, but it wasn't like the Doc Rivers where the middle was missing. Like he always got it thick.
You know what? Maybe it's the helmet. Maybe they just don't want to deal with it because of the helmet. So then when they don't have to deal with it, they grow it out, and it's like, that's always weird to me. But anyway, you guys can follow me at CEO Haize, CEO Haize, as you've been now tuned in at Hair Implant Central. But anyway, thank you for making Locked On Bulls your first listen every day, even through the off season where we still bringing that fire content every single day. We will see you guys on Monday. For Pat the Designer, I'm Haize. This has been Locked On Bulls. We out, y'all. Peace.
If Kyle Lowry can get a BBL, I'm getting hair. I ain't messing with it. Somebody tell Zion to get one.